Welcome back, everybody, to Photography Tips and Tricks, your show for gear tips, inspiration, anything that you need to take your photography and video over to the next level. My name is RC, and this week I have Mia McCormick with us. Mia, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Doing all right. I'm excited. Now, Mia is the host of an upcoming Trailblazers broadcast. You're a broadcast journalist. You're an instructor here at Kelby One. You cover video. You are living in the world of video, and one of the things that we get a lot of here from an email standpoint is the concept of video. Talking to us about how to be able to take our DSLR and kind of make the jump into that. So to that, you have a couple of tips for us on how to be able to capture some video.
Right, working with a DSLR for video is really different than working with a camera that's built specifically for video. There's some things that you need to work out with the camera first.
Okay.
But one of the things that makes these so popular for shooting video footage is because you have this nice, big, large sensor, so you can capture beautiful images at smaller price points. For a video camera, which has smaller sensors, you go into really large price points when you get those large sensors on there. So, but there are a few things that you should know about working with a camera like this, and that's one of the things that I go over in an upcoming class that I have here on Kelby One. We'll talk about that in just a minute.
Okay,
so let's talk about how you can capture some very cinematic footage with your DSLR. This is a very popular way to shoot. Just like when you shoot images, a lot of times you're looking for a very shallow depth of field, right? That's that beautiful shallow depth of field that you're looking for. So the first tip that I have is that you want a lens that has a nice wide aperture, which you may already be familiar with if you're doing a lot of photography.
Big hole.
So, right, f2.8 or faster is really what you want to stick to. So you want a nice large aperture on your lens.
Okay.
The second thing you want to do is go into your menus and look under video settings. Now, depending on what DSLR you're using, you'll have a couple of different options for video settings. One of them should be frame rates.
Okay.
And you'll usually see either 24 or 30 frames per second. Some DSLRs, when you get in the upper end ones, actually even have 60 frames per second.
Okay.
But you want to choose 24, because 24 is the same speed that film is shot at, 24 frames per second. So your mind and your eye is going to really see the footage and think of what you would see on the big screen.
Okay.
So that's a great way to shoot.
Aperture, big, frame rate,
24 frames per second.
Got it.
Now don't try and shoot action footage at 24 frames per second because it's not going to keep up with it. But if you're shooting something like a real emotional scene or you're capturing your kids blowing out the candles for their birthday, it'll be a beautiful frame rate to shoot at.
Perfect.
The third and final thing is that you want to have an ND filter, because unlike when you're shooting still images, once you set in some of your settings like shutter speed and your frame rate, you don't want to adjust those things to bring the overall exposure down in your photo. So especially if you're working outside, an ND filter is going to allow you to shoot a very shallow depth of field when you're working in bright outdoor conditions.
So that is just going to just darken everything? I mean, is that how it works? It just takes it?
Pretty much, it's like sunglasses, right? It's like putting sunglasses on the front of your camera, and it just darkens everything. So, because you can't adjust that shutter speed. Well, if you start to touch some of the other settings, then the moving elements of your image are going to be all off. It's not going to look right.
Like you've dialed in your aperture, you know, you don't want to move that. You've dialed in your shutter, you want to move that. If it's still overexposed, that's going to help.
Slap on an ND and it really helps, especially for shallow depth of field.
Perfect. Now, this is something that you cover a little bit more in depth on a class that's released today. So if you're a Kelby One subscriber, make sure that you go to the Kelby One website. She has a great class on capturing DSLR video. Now, you also did this on location, didn't you?
Right, we were out in Las Vegas, so we shot some of it on the Strip, and we shot some of it out at this cool ghost town called Nelson. So this is some of the footage shot out there, this old beat up bus. It has a real old world charm, Nelson does. There's a lot of artifacts and antiques and stuff like that to look for. And what we're gonna go over in this class is just the basics. It's a real short, sweet class to get you up and running on the settings you need to know to capture great footage, and a few pieces of equipment and gear that I think are really essential to bring your game up a notch, to capture things like audio. We'll go over ND filters and how to use them. So that's basically what the class is.
It's going to get you up to speed very, very quickly in a beautiful location. I love it. Let's do this. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to switch it up and we're going to actually bring Corey Barker on to give you a great tip on how to be able to take textures in skin and make them perfect. Stick around.
Looking for a better way to learn Lightroom? At Kelby One, you'll be learning from people who literally wrote the book on Lightroom, including best-selling author Scott Kelby and Lightroom instructor Matt Kloskowski. Scott and Matt lead a team of some of the best-known names in the Lightroom education field, who've come together to create the most comprehensive Lightroom training anywhere. You'll have unlimited access to full-length online classes that cover everything you need to know about how to use Lightroom like a pro, from start to finish. But these in-depth online classes are just the beginning. As a member, you'll learn even more about Lightroom from our monthly print magazine, Photoshop User, which has an entire section dedicated just to Lightroom users. Also, you get access to our Lightroom Help Desk, where you get private, one-on-one answers to your Lightroom questions, including troubleshooting, concepts, you name it. For years now, the creative world has turned to us as the resource for learning Lightroom, and now you can too, whether you're in Lightroom Pro or a brand new user. This is a training program that grows right along with you every step of the way, and is exclusively here at Kelby One.
Welcome back, everybody. Photography Tips and Tricks, RC here, and I'm joined by the one and only Mr. Corey Barker. What's up, man?
What's going on, man? A bit of a reunion, isn't it?
I know. A lot of you guys probably don't know. Corey and I actually did a show for like 175 episodes or something like that.
Something like that. Well, it's a couple year run, yeah. So
it was crazy.
Good, yeah.
We had this episode. We had this podcast that we did on just Adobe products called Layers TV. So we don't get a chance to do this all that often. But you had something that I was just like, you gotta show these people. Here's the thing: when you're working with photography, obviously a lot of it has to do with camera work and has to do with lenses and lighting and things like that. But sometimes you got to deal with post. And when I want to deal with post, I need the best person in the world to be able to deal with it. And that's Corey.
Yeah.
Now, you have something just on makeup, and I thought that was cool.
That's right. It's kind of sprung out of a class that Shelley Giard and I did. She's a makeup artist, and we were talking about, photographers often, they want to do the best they can to get it right in the camera, obviously. Yes. But there's going to be those situations where, oh, I wish the makeup could just be tweaked a little bit here or there. And, there might even be a situation where something went wrong and you can't get the model back in or something like that. You need to know how to maybe do some tweaking in there. And one of the most common things is skin softening. That was a kind of a base we kind of talked about. And I got a sample here from a shoot we did, and you can see we kind of did some things intentionally that might, tend to be overlooked, or somebody might not think about when they're on a shoot, and they get and they're looking at their images and they're like, oh man, I wish I'd realized that, but you can't always fix that in the moment.
Right.
So if we can zoom in here, we can see this is a pretty good shot, and there's a few things going on here with the skin. It's a little rough and everything like that, so I want to soften it up. The problem with a lot of skin softening techniques out there is it tends to look that plastic look, like a mannequin. We really want to try to avoid that. So I discovered a really interesting technique for that, and it involves channels. Now channels, people have gotten pulled away from using channels lately just because there's a lot of more advanced features in Photoshop, and it's made it a lot easier to do certain things. But channels still play a very vital role in something like this. Now, I'm just going in and looking through each channel, and what I'm looking for is the channel that really maintains a good amount of the texture, but is still showing a lot of the light area through. Okay. And in this case, it looks like it's gonna be the green channel. The red channel is a little too bright. You notice we're getting some highlights there, a little blown out.
Right, and we don't have enough detail in those sections.
Exactly, and that's what we're wanting, is that detail. Green looks good, and blue is almost too much. So a little too heavy tan there almost. So we're going to go with the green channel in this one. Now all I'm going to do is make a selection of that channel by holding down the Command key and clicking directly on the thumbnail there. Now I'm going to go back in my layers panel and go create a new blank layer and then apply that selection as a layer mask. Now you'll notice the layer mask is taken the shape of that image, and we have introduced nothing into the layer yet. We're merely masking the layer itself right now.
Right.
So now what I want to do is go and get my brush tool. Now when we did this makeup class, I ended up using pretty much just one brush. Now one of the most vital aspects of this is pressure sensitivity. You'll notice I'm using a pressure sensitive tablet here, the Wacom Intuos Pro, and it is vital for this kind of retouching. Okay. You want to get really soft edges. You almost want to mimic reality. When real makeup is being put on, it's kind of a build-up. You lightly dab and build up certain, until you get the effect you're looking for. And that's what we want to mimic here in Photoshop. So all I'm going to do is go to the I'm just using a simple round soft edge brush here, and we're going to go to the transfer settings and set the opacity and flow to pen pressure. So it's going to respond to how hard or soft I press on the tablet here. Okay. Now, making sure I'm working on the layer itself and not the layer mask, I'm going to jump over here to my image, and we'll just jump right here. Now, what's vital here is that my magnify tool is staying. There we go. Okay, so we'll zoom in on the face here. I don't want to go zoom in too much. So I'm going to just option click. Now when you option, when you have the brush tool selected, you're sampling whatever area. It immediately turns into the eyedropper tool. So I'm just going to sample this area here. And we'll make the brush a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to lightly dab on there. And you'll start to see that effect building up.
Right, so you have basically, you've put the foreground color now as part of that skin section.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, let's boost this up here. That's why I'm not getting much in here. So see if I do too much. Now there we go. Now, if I do too much, if I press really hard, and this is where people tend to get a little crazy with it. Notice how it just kind of, that's where you start to get that hard plastic look.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to avoid here.
Okay.
And most of the time, these effects, these things you're trying to correct are very subtle. You don't want to make an obvious change.
Right.
So we're just going to just dab on here and just build this effect up very, very lightly. And just until we see, now I'm just going to sample a new area because there's range of tones all over the face here. So you're going to want to just sample the local area and then just lightly dab. Sample, lightly dab.
So you're almost kind of like applying digital foundation, really.
Pretty much, exactly what we're doing here. We're just, and this is great for, you notice how we're reducing the shine as well as smoothing out the skin here. But we're doing it very, very subtle. And a lot of people, we all know that retouching and working in Photoshop takes a lot of patience. Mm-hmm. This is certainly no exception. You got to go in there and just lightly dab that effect up. A lot of people tend to get impatient and they go, oh, I have no time for this, and just build it, and then you just get a muddy mess. So again, it takes a lot of patience, but the critical aspect of this is that layer mask. It's going in there and it's maintaining the texture and only allowing it to peer through through the layer itself. Now, if I temporarily turn that mask off, you can see all we've done there is just very light dabs around the face here. It's obviously crept up a little bit in the eye there, but
now you're only affecting.
I'm only affecting the areas I need to affect. And a lot of people tend to do these global corrections on images, and they're correcting certain areas of the image they don't need to, and it just kind of gets it all ruined and everything like that. So that builds the base, and then we've got other lessons where we actually go in and we'll add or enhance the blush, and we'll go in and do eye makeup, and you can all do all that in Photoshop very, very convincingly.
Nice. Yeah. All right, so make sure that you take a look at the Kelby One website. Look for Corey Barker. Look for Shelley Giard. You get digital makeup right in one spot. Man, thanks, man.
I appreciate it.
That's pretty good. That's a good one. Now, listen, we have a couple of different things that we have here. So we have a PeachPit ebook deal. So make sure that you go to peachpit.com/Kelby1, enter in Kelby1, and you're going to get Living the Dream, putting your creativity to work and getting paid. So you have an ebook, 40% off of that ebook. You can go ahead and get that by just going into peachpit.com/Kelby1, enter in the code Kelby1, you get 40% off of that ebook deal. Now, we also have a website for you to take a look at. Make sure that you go to this website right here. So this has to do with Brian Bonham on Google+. So if you go to Google+, let me go ahead and bring that up here for you. He's got a great website. He's got a lot of landscape photography that he does, right? He's on Google+, so go to plus.google.com/+ Brian Bonham. That'll bring you to this website. He's got some great imagery here. Take a look at those waterfalls, right? Serene work, right? So he's out there shooting. That's Multnomah Falls. I would love a picture like that of Multnomah Falls. I never get a chance to get it. I think it's just a great spot out in Oregon. I've been out there and I never get a chance to get a picture like that. But anyway, so take a look at him. That's our website to watch for this week.
All right.
Now, the last thing that we want to do is I'm going to give away.
There it is.
So Corey Barker's book. Guys, if you're a photographer or you're a designer, I'm going to go ahead and shower praise on him because he won't do it. This is hands down the best book on Photoshop. Right? If you want to learn how to be able to just learn amazing tricks for composites, for designs, for anything, Corey wrote the book. This is the book, and you get to win it. Let me tell you how to do it. Go to the Kelby One website. Make sure that you go to the More section at the very, very top. Go to Webcasts. Go to Photography Tips and Tricks. Once you click on that, you want to find the show for this week. So it is episode 66. Make sure that you click on it. Once you click on it, go all the way down to the bottom. At the very, very bottom in this one section, you can go ahead and submit a comment. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Tell us something that you want to be able to see. Guys, you could be watching this on YouTube, Google+, Roku's. You could be watching this everywhere else. Guys, we need you to come to the Kelby One site and submit there. What are you going to win? You're going to win Corey Barker's new book.
Sweet. And
on top of that, we're going to give you a pass to Photoshop World. Photoshop World, September 3rd through 5th, 2014 in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's a 3-day love fest.
It is.
It's the world's best photographers, world's best lighting people, world's best photography people like Corey, like Scott Kelby, like Matt Kluskowski. All of these guys get together and provide the best training out there, and you get to come as well.
Vegas is always fun.
I love Vegas. I think it's a great spot. But you're gonna get a pass. You're gonna get the book. All you got to do is submit a comment. So thanks, guys, for stopping by. Thank you, Mr. Corey Barker, for coming by. Thanks, Mia McCormick, for stopping by as well. We'll see you guys here next week on another episode of Photography Tips and Tricks. Take care.
Or Lairs TV.
Or Lairs TV. Or Lairs TV.